Okay, welcome to the webinar. Tonight we're going to be covering how to get stock ideas from gurus, and the gurufocus.com website is specifically tailored to just that, on top of its immense capabilities for you to do fundamental equity research. But we want to show you tonight several of the tools within the website that can help you not only see what top hedge and mutual fund managers are buying, but also track their current portfolios, watch the activity of them adding or moving shares from concentrated positions, putting together aggregated portfolios of certain gurus, and how to maintain the list of those managers that you personally want to follow. So to do this, I'm going to go ahead and take us to the website. And this is the homepage of gurufocus.com. Obviously, the main stories will change day to day. But across the top of the screen, on the headers, one of the things you're going to see here is a header called Gurus, which you should see under this red hovering bulb here at the top. And under the Gurus heading, there are several options we're going to go through. So as you can see, there's a pretty concentrated list: latest guru picks, real-time picks, the list of gurus that you can personalize, portfolios, scoreboard, etc., through the end. So we'll try to explore each of these and show you how they can be beneficial to you, to your equity research, and managing your own personal or professional portfolio. So we'll start at the top with the latest guru picks. And what we're going to see here is money managers that have recently bought or sold or added to current positions. Now, there's a few options up here at the top of the screen that are important to understand what they are and how to use them. And that's right up here. So you can select a couple of different things. You can select just new buys and adds. You can look at just reductions in positions or sells, or you can look at both, as it's checked by default. Now, by the second row here is select gurus, and by default, it is selected my gurus, okay? And that is your personal list of fund managers that you want to follow. If you check the premium box, that will show you all the premium gurus. And if you're a Premium Plus member, it will show you literally every single portfolio manager who manages 100 million or more that files a 13F filing. And that's why this My Gurus box is so important. By default, several of these factors are going to focus on that list because that's the advisors that you've chosen to have an interest in, to have a respect for, that you want to know when they're taking activity. So by default, it's on My Gurus. And we see a couple of people that I have here on my personal list and trades they've recently placed. So Howard Marks, he's done buys and shows the ticker symbol. He's also added to existing positions: SBLK, MBT, CX, same with Manish Pabray, John Buckingham, the Yachman Fund, and several others down here on the list. Now, if instead we click on Premium, that's going to show us all of the premium gurus and the trades they've placed, not just the ones on the My Gurus list. So you see that list extends. Got James Barrow, Paul Singer, Pioneer Investments, and a number of others. We can scroll down and see there's lots and lots of information here. So the trick of the tools I want to show you today is to create it to where you're not inundated with information and you're finding 500 stock tickers that have been recently bought, but concentrating that on just the information that's important to you. And by the same token, Premium Plus will show literally every person filing a 13F that has had recent trades. Okay. So the first step in this is probably setting up our guru list, right? Because that's going to be important to every aspect we show you today. So under the gurus heading, you can go to list of gurus, personalize, or you can see it over here on the left side of your screen. The same drop-down list is referenced on the left vertical pane here. And you see the third one down is the list of gurus. So let's go to that, and I'll show you how to set this up. Now it's got some text information up here kind of showing you how to put together your list. This is my personal list here. Okay, we've got 17 people I'm following. Okay, now you can do a couple of things. You can filter this list down if you have a lot you're following to certain ones. We can use the top headings here: Premium Gurus, Premium Plus Investors, to find a much larger list and select people from there. You can do the quick organize setting at the top. And this will show you again all of the gurus you have in your list on the right, and you can just select the ones you want to follow on the left. For instance, if we wanted to look at Brian Rogers and add him to our list, we simply check it, click this orange box with the arrows pointing right, and then now, as you can see down here at the bottom, he's now in my list. By the same token, if there's someone I don't want to follow anymore, I can check him from my list, take the blue button with the arrows facing left, and remove him from my personal guru list. Now, if you're like me, the question you have at this point is very easy, as you can see, to set up your personal list, and you can do a couple. Right? You can set up your own a number of lists you want to follow. But the question you get is, how do I choose top gurus that have proven track records that I want to follow, and that when they buy a stock, I'm going to take heed, I'm going to take warning, and give that equity some attention. So to do that, and I'll go ahead and click finish to get rid of this, what I like is the scorecard. Okay, so back here under our gurus heading, about the fifth one down, is the scoreboard. And I'm going to go ahead and take us to that because it's going to show us how our gurus have performed. Now, of course, like I keep mentioning to you, by default, it's going to take us to my gurus, my personal list, and this is them there. But we can click Premium or Premium Plus to see all of them, to track and identify top advisors. Let's go to the Premium list here. And what it's going to show you is performance metrics, right? How many stocks they've bought in the last 6 months, the average gain, stock picks in the last 12 months, average annual return, 5-year return, 10-year returns, and since inception returns. So obviously performance is a big factor for us. That's why we're going to look at it really quick. A couple of notes to you when tracking performance. One, any fund can do phenomenal for 1 year or 2 years. Okay, if you go back and look at, say, Paulson, for example, he did phenomenally in 08, 09 because he bet huge shorts against the housing market. But since that time, his performance has been a little bit lackluster, if not lagging. So I like to see at least a 5-year track record. Now, you can do it since inception, but if you do that, just be sure you're not tracking a fund that's only been in existence for a year or 2 years. It doesn't have substantial history. So like everything else on this site, it's very clickable. We can click on right here at the top, either the 5-year average percentage, the 10-year percentage, and organize it by that. So that's what I'd like to do. We'll start with the 5-year, and we click it once, it goes in reverse order. Notice that these ones that don't have a number, that means they haven't been in existence for 5 years. So they don't have, the current fund being tracked does not have a 5-year history. Click it one more time, and now we're going from the highest averages in a descending order. So here's our top performers for the last 5 years. Okay, Carl Icahn, John Rogers, David Rolfe, Rico Gordon, David Tepper, the Vanguard Healthcare Fund, and a handful of others. If we organize this by 10-year to get guys that really have a strong track record of a lot of time, I mean, David Tepper, there's a reason he's the king on Wall Street. 30% average annual return for the last decade. The closest person is Ian Cumming there at 13.3%. So phenomenal fund. You can see why David Tepper gets so much attention and why when he talks, the market listens, okay? But this is a nice place to start. Anyone who's been doing this for 10 years, they've been through 08, they've been through the housing crisis, the financial little recession we had there, and they're still maintaining these kind of numbers on a 10-year average, are solid money managers. Okay, so even if you just want to take, say, the top 10 guys here, you're going to look at Tepper, Cumming. Seth Klarman is a great value investor, wonderful writer as well. Donald Yachman there is a by the books value investor. Buffett's in there at 10% average for the last 10 years, you can see listed. So a handful of others, but this is a nice place to start to kind of build your list. And then again, even from this page, you can click right up here at the top where it says modify your personalized list of gurus. And without even leaving the page, you can bring up that screen we looked at earlier that allows you to browse those gurus and add the ones you like to your list. Okay, so that'll give you an idea, and you can play with these as well if you want to find guys that don't hold a terribly high number of stocks. You want ones that maybe hold 100 or less stocks in their portfolio, to kind of avoid the guys who are just so overly diversified that their stock picks don't mean as much to you. If you want really concentrated, you can find those guys that have less than, say, 40 stocks in their portfolio, and the list gets shorter and shorter. You can evaluate how much money they manage. You can look at the turnover ratio. In other words, how much buying and selling do they do? How active are they to really find the guys that do buy and holds? That's really going to be up to you. Okay, but that's how you put together your personal guru list. That will probably change over time as you read articles or see research from different investors, maybe add or remove people from your list. Now, all the information you're seeing here, I've got a question, is, are these real-time buys? Let me tell you how this works. So anyone who manages 100 million or more and files these 13Fs, they have to file their current portfolio, which shows how many shares they own of every publicly traded company now, in addition to buys and sells, every quarter. Okay, so at the end of every quarter, say March 31st, they've got to file for up to March 31st, and they have 45 days after that period to file that form with the SEC. It's known as the 13F. As soon as those are filed with the SEC, within 20 minutes, that data is automatically aggregated into the Guru Focus site and available to you. Some guys may file a week after the quarter. Some may wait to the full 45 days. But that's how often it's updated. Now, in addition to that, when you see real-time picks, any money manager who owns 5% or greater of a publicly traded company, anytime they do a buy or sell in a stock they own that much of, they must report it within 14 days. So the real-time picks are the ones you don't have to wait for the quarterly report, but they own a large, substantial holding in that firm, and they've got to report every time they place a trade within that. Okay, this is going to show you here, once again, by default, it's showing my personal gurus list here, and the real-time trades they placed. It'll also show you the date that trade was placed. For instance, this one was April 28th, April 10th, March 31st, etc. Now, one person asked, why are they listed twice? Why do you see, for instance, Bruce Berkowitz here listed several times? So a couple of things. On this, it's going to be each individual trade that's listed. If you're talking about the previous page where we looked at latest guru picks, sometimes they're going to be listed twice, simply because they either manage multiple funds within their holding company or as multiple trades. So for instance, Donald Yackman here, as we see, he's got buys under his own name, then he's got buys under the Yackman fund, then he's got buys under the Yackman focused fund. So a couple of different entities that he runs there. So we've gone over kind of how to put together your personal guru list. We've looked at kind of the latest picks and things like that. Let's show you a little bit more in depth. Now, on any page when you're on a guru, you can click on their name. So we're going to look at Howard Marks, for example. He is the head of Oak Tree Capital Management, a just behemoth name. Buffett has a lot of respect for him, reads everything the guy writes. So if we click on his name, it's going to take us to a summary page for his portfolio. Okay, now it's going to go through a couple of things. The top, it's going to look at his latest trades, and we'll see very quickly what kind of trade it was. If it says reduced, that means he already owned the position. He sold some but didn't sell all of it. Same thing with add, he's adding to an existing portfolio. And then buy or sold out is either new positions or completely exiting a position. The date shows the date of that trade or when it was reported. And the impact shows how much of his portfolio that trade represents. Okay, so if the impact, like down here, Pulse Electronics, he sold out, the impact of his portfolio was less than 0.3%, that's not a huge conviction position. But we look at Tribune Media, he sold some back, and that was 4% of his portfolio he sold out. So just kind of keep an eye on the impact. I even like to filter these by the impact percentage, because unlike filtering it by, say number of shares, which is relevant to the size of the company, we're seeing where his big weight is moving. Now, in addition, we're getting price range. So why is there a price range? Well, if it was filed on a quarterly report, giving you the range of the price of that equity over that range, right? So if it was first quarter 2015, it means he reduced it sometime between January 1st and March 31st. You may not know the exact price, so you've got kind of a range in here of where that was sold. And it could have been multiple trades throughout that quarter as well. Now, if it's a real-time buy like this one for Tribune Media Company, we know the pretty much the exact price. And the next column over shows you the current price. You can kind of see where that stock trades today in relation to where it was when the trade was placed, any comments on it, and the current total number of shares he has. Now, in addition, if we click on one of these stocks, so notice how I over here I'm on Star Bulk Carriers Corp, the second one down, and we hover over this line item and it becomes kind of a gray color. If you click anywhere in there, it's going to bring up a holding history for this stock. So why is that important to you? Well, to me, it's showing you a history of his buying. So let's look at what we've got right here, and it's in a really nice chart format. In this dark green, we're seeing the price of the stock each quarter and kind of its history. The bright green vertical bars are showing the number of shares that he held cumulatively at the time. So what we notice here on this stock with Star Bulk Carriers, Howard Marks started buying the stock as it was falling. And then as it fell this most recent quarter, he essentially almost doubled down his position. So it went from having, maybe 2 or 3 million shares to 50 million shares, and now he's holding about 82 million shares of the stock. So it's a nice visual representation that shows you either this guy or this fund is building up the position, they're buying more, they're liking these lower prices and adding, or are they working out of the position? Are they owning less and less and less and less as we go forward, meaning they're kind of taking profits and working their way out of the position. Over here on the right, it shows you the exact details on the buy. So how many shares he bought, the percentage change, the average price when those were bought, how many shares he had at the end of the quarter, and his total gain based on the average price, not the number of shares being held there. So really, really nice tool, I think, that shows you kind of the history of that manager in that stock. Now, Steve asked, are the filings for greater than 5% interest on the 13F? I don't know if that's I think it's a different form they have to file, Steve. And yes, Adam, they do. I had another question asking if they have to report buys and sells that are not listed in the USA. Most of these stocks are listed in the USA, even if it's a European company or a Canadian stock. They'll trade here as well through ADRs or American Depository Receipts. But yes, we track all their international buys as well. So we're tracking everything. So that's really nice to see their most recent most recent trades. In addition, it's got lots of good statistics in here. So we get to see his sector weightings, right? Is this a guy we want to follow or an aggregation of managers we want to follow? Where is his money going? He's very heavy in real estate, consumer cyclical stocks, financial services, not so much in energy, communications, consumer defensive, etc. It's showing you any articles that reference Howard Marks that have been written. These are all over the last, I'd say, 2 months, but for less followed gurus, it may be over a further time period, but you can see anything relevant's been written about him. And you're seeing a little bit of his current portfolio. I'll show you a better way to see their current portfolio. And you can dig through this. Someone asked how far back this record goes. Let's go back to the last page of this. We're seeing trades here that he placed in 2011. Okay, so it's got a good amount of history if you want to kind of dig back and see what kind of trades they've been placing. Now we're still on the Howard Marks page. Again, this is going to be existing for every guru, and I apologize, it's showing this plugin down. That's not the website. That's my current internet browser. It needs to be updated, so you should see an extra graphic in this area. But right up here at the top, so we're on Stock Pics. You can go to latest profile performance into current portfolio. So let's go to his current portfolio, and we'll see what exactly he's holding today. So here's his current portfolio, and again, it shows us the sector weightings on top to see where he's concentrated, any recent portfolio changes, and that's that trade it showed earlier. And here's his entire portfolio. Okay, this is what investors are paying him 2% to do for him, and paying him 20% of the profits to do. Now, again, I mentioned how I prefer to look at the weighting because it's going to show us where the bulk of this money is, right? What his largest position. So I'm going to click on this weighting as a percentage of his portfolio to list this in descending order by weight. And there we have it. So there's his largest holding. All right, your Howard Marks, one of the best portfolio managers in the world, and you've got 30% of the several billion he manages in this REIT, Store Capital Corporation. So that, to me, is something I'm interested in. Tribune Media Corp, that's a huge buy he just placed and represented 17 or 18% of his portfolio. Dynegy, Stark Bolt Carriers, we looked at First Bank Corp, Ally, Diamond Foods, etc. So you can see really quickly what are his top holdings. You can quickly see how much he's recently bought. You see the share number change from last period. So look, he's added 60% of what he had over the previous quarter here in Stark Bolt Carriers, so he's still adding pretty heavily there. And you can see once he's reducing. If I'm looking at Masonite International, I'm seeing Howard Marks beginning to cut his position. I'm going to take a closer look and decide if it's something I want to buy. Because just because a guru owns it doesn't mean he'd buy it today, right? They say yes, there is a way to track activity. I'll show you that in just a moment. Now on the left, once again, this is kind of nice. It's got all of my gurus. So whatever ones you choose to put in your list, it'll have your guru list over here to the left. For instance, we'll look at Mr. Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha himself, and you can click on these names. It'll just take you right to the current portfolio page of those guys as well. We'll do the same thing. And really quickly, you can see Warren Buffett's top 5 holdings: Wells Fargo, Coca-Cola, Amex, IBM, and Walmart. This portfolio probably isn't going to surprise very many of you, but it might on some of the smaller guys. Now look at his weightings. Buffett has 1/2 of his $110 billion Berkshire Hathaway portfolio in financial services. Wells Fargo, American Express, he actually has tons of warrants on, I have to ask Charlie, I think it's Bank of America that represent a synthetic position that will essentially be his second or third largest holding. So he's very heavily in financial services right now. Now, in addition, with any guru, you can click on the profile or performance metric over here. It'll give you a little bit of a summary on that money manager, his investment philosophy, some articles by them. This is a really nice historical allocation between stocks, bonds, and cash, so you can get an idea of kind of where they fall in the allocation angle there. The value of their equity holdings over history, it looks like there's a little bit of a blank hole here for Berkshire, but for the most part, we kind of see how that's grown from even the last 10 years, going from 35 to 110 billion. And you get their annual performance figures. Okay, so this is interesting as well. You can see what their dollar return was, or what their percentage return was, what the index, S&P 500, did, and then if they outperformed or underperformed that index, and by how much. Now, Buffett has been underperforming the S&P for the last several years. But, you know, over the last 10 years, he's outperformed it pretty substantially. The last 15 years, even more substantially, etc. And he's made several comments to this, that the size of Berkshire Hathaway is now impeding its performance in some levels. But the further back you go from this man, 35-year cumulative is 38,590%. So, you know, just phenomenal results, really. And it looks like Charlie's even got us some more data from his limited partnerships going all the way back to 1957. So really, really strong. But it goes through his management profile, the culture of his firm, his business opinions, theories, foreign investments, lots and lots of data and lots of articles referenced here. And again, there's probably more on Buffett than some other gurus out there, but it's a great, great source to learn about these guys. Joel Greenblatt's another one. He's not a great guy. I don't think he's a great guy to track now because you notice he's got 936 stocks. What he's doing these days is very mathematical in terms of just using models to track performance. But if we look back at his history, I guess we only have this current fund. If you read more on Greenblatt, there was a time when he was earning 40 to 50% a year. Matt, all the content I'm showing you now is just regular premium. Anyone who is a paid member of Guru Focus can see this. The only addition to the Premium Plus is it'll show you all this information, not just on the, however, I forget exactly how many, 400 money managers, whatever, the biggest money managers we've always tracked. Now Premium Plus is generally designed for institutional investors who want to track everyone, the hundreds and thousands of portfolio managers out there. So most of the things I'm going to show you today does not require Premium Plus. Premium Plus is simply an add-on if you want to see literally everyone. Okay, so we've gone through the Guru portfolios, looked at the scoreboard. Sector Pics is another place you can go. What it's going to do, for instance, if you're trying to fill a hole in your portfolio, right, you're holding, say, 15, 20, 30 stocks, you think, well, I don't really have any exposure in the small cap market, or I don't really have any exposure in real estate or industrials. You can kind of click on each of these sectors, and it will find recent stock picks from respected gurus in that sector. Once again, you can kind of filter these by the impact of their portfolio to try to find some of the higher conviction ideas, and then kind of use that as a search tool to find companies to fill that gap. And you can filter this by country, by market cap, by the sector, obviously, and then the subsector as well, if you want to go into not just financial services, but you want an asset management firm or a bank or something else. Now, for you international investors, there is actually a dedicated international picks section. It's going to be very similar to what we've shown you here, but it's focused on international equities. This is going to be European stocks, Canadian, anything outside the United States. Now, as with everything else, it's extremely user-friendly. You can one-click filter by different regions, and you can filter these also by price, by change from average, by the impact of the portfolio, and find international buys. So if you're looking for exposure elsewhere, you can very quickly do all the same things we're doing with U.S. stocks, but just say you were looking for Chinese companies in Asia. You just simply click China, and it's going to show you the recent activity, the buys and sells from respected gurus with a Chinese focus. See a lot of Baidu in here, a little Alibaba, no surprise there. Now, the aggregated portfolio is something really nice. Okay, the aggregated portfolio, just as it sounds, is a portfolio of all your gurus put together. Okay, so I've got 14 to 16 gurus here in my list. I'm going to use my default group. Select all these guys. Click Show Aggregated Portfolio. And it puts together, right down here, you notice it says 17 gurus selected. And it acts as if all their funds were commingled. So you get a nice kind of holistic look at what they're all doing combined, right? So once again, I'm going to filter this by combined weighting. And the largest hold among the the managers I follow is Wells Fargo, followed by AIG, Bank of America, Coca-Cola, P&G, PepsiCo, etc., on down the line. So if you're looking for staples to hold, probably a good place to look. You can filter this by market cap. If you're looking for some good dividend stocks, we can filter this down by yield. Say, okay, what are the top dividend yielding stocks that these gurus are holding? So you kind of go Phillips at almost 4.5, GM at 3.5, Avon, P&G, etc., down the list. And it's going to show you a couple of things. The number of gurus in your list that are owning it right here, the number of guru buys last quarter versus sells, the PE ratio of that company. You can filter this by market cap, by sector, by country, any number of ways. And then it's also going to show you the percentage above the 52-week low. So if you're looking for stocks that have been beaten down recently, maybe you want to find these near their 52-week lows. So that's a really nice feature. Now, AC is asking if you can weight these aggregate portfolios. In other words, show me double weight on Klarman and half weight on Buffett. I don't think there's a way to do that. No, there's not a way to weight different ones. I would suggest just setting up multiple portfolios and doing one with your more heavily weighted, more heavily followed gurus in one list, and then do another list with the others. But that's the aggregated portfolio. I think it's really, really nice. I mean, you can even select all of these, add them all to your list, and put together an aggregated portfolio and really get a giant, large picture of you if you want. Next down here on the list, you see something called consensus picks. That's just like it sounds. It's finding stocks that multiple of your gurus have purchased, right? So you can look over the last 3 months, 6 months, last year. We're looking at the most active buys for the last 12 months, and here we go. So we've got you in here, purchased by the Yachman Fund, Ken Fisher, the Yachman Focused, more Ken Fisher buy, more Yachman Fund Focused buys. If you have a larger list, you're going to see more, but it's just a way to find stocks that several people are buying, and there may be more conviction. If not, just Buffett bought it, but several other guys did the same thing. Now, someone asked a question earlier about finding stocks near 52-week lows. What there is something called Guru Bargains. Now, it's the next item down over here on our selectable list here down the left pane. And what Guru Bargains are, that's going to show you stocks that are available today at prices lower than Guru's purchased them. Okay, so once again, by default, it is showing my gurus. If you look at premium, that's going to show you all the ones that the premium membership tracks. But you're looking at a couple of things here. You're looking at either buys or adds, the impact of the portfolio, and then the current price versus the range where they bought it, or the exact price. And you see the percentage change from their average buy. So if you want to really, this is going to do two things. One, it's going to find you stocks that, hey, they bought it, maybe they bought too early. I can even beat Howard Marks by getting his pick at an even better price. The other way to look at this is maybe I'm buying the junk that didn't work out for them. So it kind of it's a personal preference on how you want to view this, or how much effort or emphasis you put to it. But just know there's kind of two ways to look at it, right? I mean, if you're looking at Wells Fargo or Bank of America, or monster Walmart caliber companies that have been bought by fund managers, now you can get them even cheaper. That's a great deal. If it's some small cap they bought for, in this case, $3, it's down $1 or so, or it's down. Howard Marks bought this Verso Corp. That's a tiny part of his portfolio, 7/100ths of 1%, but he bought it somewhere around, anywhere around $2, $2.50, now trading $1.30, so it's been hacked since then. But a nice way to kind of find some bargains if you're more of a bargain hunter looking for equities that have fallen on hard times, perhaps further than these managers thought it would. Now, hot picks is very similar to consensus picks, right? You can just find ones that have been bought by at least, let's say 10 gurus, for instance, in the last year. At least 10 of them own it, and no more than 3 have sold it. We'll search that against the premium list. And here's some stocks that are meeting our parameters, right? So lots of buying, lots of holding, very little selling, and we get a couple of nice little features here. So we get a list of the stocks. We get the buy to sell ratio. So for instance, Tri Point Homes has seen 19 buys compared to only 3 sells. It's held by 47 gurus. We get a PE ratio, the yield if it's a dividend paying stock, and the combined weightings of those. Owens, Illinois is even higher. 177 gurus own it. And you can kind of track through the holding history and purchase history if you want to see more detail about where you're buying, kind of in the cycle of them picking up that stock. You don't want to get it after it's already tripled for the most part. Now, industry trends, we kind of touched on this earlier, but I'll go to the full premium list here. And what this does is kind of show you where money is flowing right now. Okay, so it's going to do it by sector, and it's going to show you the number of net buys, and that is a result of the number of buys and number of sells. So for instance, net buys in oil and gas is -57. because there have been 122 purchases, but 179 sales, so it's negative. So the ones at the top are kind of areas that, for the most part, are seeing more selling than buying. And as we scroll down, we'll find, I guess another way to call it is the hotter sectors that have been getting more attention and more buying than selling. So the hottest sectors down here, based on recent guru buying and selling activity: banks, biotech, airlines, travel and leisure, and employment services. So, if you're more of a macro investor, you're more of a top-down approach, you want to find the market, then find the sector, then pick stocks within, you kind of say, okay, the US looks good. Let's see what sectors are getting bought up now by the smartest minds on Wall Street. And then from there, you can maybe go in and say, okay, let's find me some industry picks, go through and find stocks that have been purchased, individual stocks, kind of build your portfolio that way. Now we do have an ETF section in here as well. It's going to be no surprise that the SPY, which just tracks the S&Ps, is one of the largest held here. But you can also kind of see where they're putting what I call lazy dollars into these ETFs. They're not picking funds, how many buys it's had for the quarter, how many sells, the combined weightings, essentially all the same information we had elsewhere. Now at the top of this ETF section, it is categorized, as you see right here. So you can select the ETF categories you want to watch. So bear market would be kind of inverse ETFs, bonds, broad market, commodity, on down the line there to kind of find those funds that are tracking what you're looking for. Now for the option traders out there, there is an option section, and you're going to see the guru who placed a trade, whether it's a put or a call, the number of shares that represents, and what ticker. Now, it doesn't always show you the strike. Okay, so it's not going to tell you, he's buying X, a $35, March 15 strike or whatever that may be, because generally when they're managing this level of funds, this amount of assets, they're generally buying up several different strikes at several different expirations. But you can kind of see, and it's going down here by each guru, what stocks they hold options on. Then there's also European shorting section as well. That's going to show you, we don't have the short data for the US. Okay, it's not filed with the SEC in a way that aggregates. We do have short data on international stocks. Okay, so we don't necessarily know, hey, Icon short Herbalife, but the international stocks, we do have that information. And it shows you the net short position, the average price, where it lies today, and how much that price has changed from where they got into it. So if you're an international short trader, this is a good place for you to find that information. Now, as far as the options, I'm getting a lot of questions if they are buys or sells. I will have to ask Charlie. I don't know if that is part of, I think this is just showing you what they currently hold. So this is not sells. It's just showing you their current portfolio. You're not alerted. It's not like showing you trades. It's just showing you their existing positions. So these are the calls and puts they currently own as of these portfolio dates. And like anything else, I mean, at any time going through this, you might see information, think, oh, you know what, this Eric Mindich guy, I keep seeing him. I kind of like what he does. I want to add him. There's always this modify your personalized list of gurus. It's a little gear and a setting that brings you that pop-up that allows you to very quickly and very easily add someone to your list or remove someone off of it to get tracked. Now, while you're on the personalized guru list here, you can also be alerted to any changes they make to the portfolios. Okay, so down here in the bottom left of the screen, see where it says settings? You can select to receive email alerts of your gurus. Okay, so that's for your default list. So anytime they place a trade, whether buy or sell, you can be automatically alerted via an email to let you know of that. And then it says for gurus not on my list, you can completely ignore them, display the related information, or remind you if there's related information to that. And Lisa, yes, the majority of these features are for premium. Anyone who's a paid member to Guru Focus. There's still there's still obviously a good amount of content you can access as a free subscriber, but all these tools are available to everyone who has a membership. Absolutely. Now, someone mentioned, can you track activity on certain stocks? For example, Apple, Google, ExxonMobil, and you absolutely can. What you're going to want to do that is put together kind of a portfolio, a watch list. And up here in the My Portfolio section, I'll show you how to do this, AC. What you'll do is go up here to the My Portfolios, the top right side of any page you're on the website, and go to your personal portfolio, or you can go to maybe click Create New Portfolio, and you could add any stocks you want to this portfolio. You can have as many as you want. You can have one portfolio with 3 stocks. You can have 100 portfolios with 50 stocks each. But you just name it, whatever you want to name your portfolio, then just put the stocks you want tracked, separated by a comma. So we'll put Google, I think you said Apple, Exxon, whatever, any description you want to put in that. And we'll create that portfolio, and here it is. And then on that, you'll set up your email alerts. Okay, so up here on the top right of this portfolio, notice that far right thing here says email alerts. If we go into there, we can decide what we want to be alerted on. So in addition to just, price movements, volume changes, you can select Guru Trades, you can select Insider Trade, you put SEC, other SEC filings, and then just hit Save Settings down here at the bottom. And what that's going to do is alert you anytime a guru places a trade, either buy or sell on one of the stocks in your portfolio. So hopefully that helps you out. Now, Johnny asked, do I recommend the email alerts? Can they get overwhelming for, say, 8 gurus and fill up my inbox? Johnny, it's really up to you. I don't think it becomes that overwhelming. But again, at any time, you can go in and take those off, right? So at any time, you can go here to your list of gurus. I mean, just try it out. If it's too many emails, you don't like it, all you got to do is come in here and uncheck the box for the alerts. Just click Settings, Receive Email Alerts, don't receive email alerts, and just hit Save, and you'll no longer get them. So it's really, really flexible, easy to work with, and customizable for you here at the Guru Focus site. So I just want to give you an overview. Again, people see this and they say, oh, so many picks, when you're new to this, say, oh, TRCOs, ETFs, ATR, every stock pick is not created equal, right? The important things I would tell you to look at is, one, look at the weight impact of the portfolio, okay? If someone is really dedicated to an idea, if they've got, a lot of conviction in it, they're not putting 0.05% of their portfolio in it. They're putting 3, 4, 5, 10% toward an idea. Okay, that's the first thing to look at. Second is, how many stocks do these guys own, right? I mean, some of these fund managers really put their money where their mouth is, and they hold a portfolio of 20 or 30 stocks. Some of them hold 2,000 stocks, and if they hold 2,000 stocks, none of them are really that relevant to me because I'm not going to hold 2,000 stocks, right? So let's look at, for instance, David Tepper. We'll just go to David Tepper stock picks here. This guy is managing, just in this one fund, $4 billion, and he's only holding 28 stocks. That may sound like a lot to you or me to pick stocks, but when you're managing $4 billion, Most mutual funds out there are holding hundreds and hundreds, if not thousands of stocks with that amount of money. And he's really putting some conviction into his trades, and it's why he's done so well. You just cannot outperform holding 1,000 stocks like you can holding 20 or 30. And if we go to his current portfolio, we immediately see his greatest conviction ideas. Look, 2014 was a monster year for Tepper. Why? Because he bet really heavily on airlines. He's still holding some of these. You can see him here in his list. Those airlines did phenomenally well for him. So he's still holding Delta, American Airlines, United Continental Holdings. And I think he even had more. Now his big conviction idea appears to be General Motors at the moment, HCA on the healthcare front. Priceline he's still holding a lot of. But what you don't want to do is look at this and say, oh, Tepper's got Priceline, I need Priceline. What you need to do instead is really quickly kick on the line here and say, okay, is Tepper adding to Priceline or is he getting out of it? And here we quickly see the history of how many shares he's owned. So he was buying it, buying it, buying it, and then toward the end of last year, he did a little reduction. Right? He slipped, he brought it down 13.5%, as we can see. So, that's not a stock he's continuing to build up a position. Now, as a new filing comes out, let's see, when is that? May, I guess this week. Right, so you're going to get a lot of alerts here pretty soon because of the 13Fs are about to be filed. Like I said, they have 45 days from the end of the quarter. So the end of the quarter was the end of March, so 45 days puts us right here. What is it? Is it May 15th, May 14th? Charlie, I apologize. I should know, but one day this week, all these 13Fs are going to get reported. Everyone is holding back. When they do, you're going to see a lot of updates. So watch this guru section this week. It's a perfect time for it. You're going to see, if you're thinking about Priceline because he's got it, in a couple of days, you're going to see this updated, and you'll see, okay, did he sell more shares this quarter, or is he adding because the price has dropped? And that'll give you an idea of what he's doing. So don't just assume they're still buying because they have it. A lot of these positions, for instance, let's look at Delta. He's done phenomenally well with Delta, but look, he's letting out his position, right? I mean, he bought Delta very heavy and very smartly at the end of 2012, held it for 13 and 14, bought monster shares. He was holding at one point 10 million shares of it, and watched that stock go from $10 to $40 a share. But now what's he doing? He's reducing his position. He's down from 10 million shares to about 3.2 million shares. So he's a value investor like anyone, right? He knew it was undervalued then. He's seeing that it's come bull value now, and it no longer represents the same opportunity. He's taken some off the table. But I think Charlie at Guru Focus has done a really nice job of laying this out visually in an easy way to see what's been done with these holdings, and kind of to quickly kind of give you an idea of whether this is a building position or a reducing position. That should give you a general overview of some of the guru features and how to get stock ideas from these gurus. If there's a certain manager you really like and want to follow, especially one that has a lot of stocks, let's look at Tepper. We can look at his portfolio in several ways: valuations, low PE stocks, his top yielding stocks, his top growth stocks, and drill these things down even further. For a guy like Tepper who's only holding 28 companies, that may not be necessary. Right? But for some of these guys that are holding 200, 300 stocks, we want to see, well, show me his low PE stocks. Show me his stocks near 52-week lows. Show me the stocks that insiders are buying as well. His high conviction picks, stocks he's added substantial positions to. Now I've got a couple of questions. Can you please show me what a non-member can see? Yeah, let me log out for you. So this is what it looks like from a non-member. Okay, so it doesn't show you the most recent quarter, and it's going to keep prompting me to log in here. It doesn't show the most recent quarter. It does show, from the end of last year, some of his trades. It's not going to show you the real-time picks. We can see his current portfolio. We can see some of the information, but the more detailed analytics that we were pulling up from earlier, you're going to want to be a member to see. Now the aggregated portfolio section, as you can see down here, is blurred out. That's not an available free feature. And many of the others aren't going to be free features. So we want you to be able to see enough as a free member to kind of get your feet wet and kind of cut your teeth on it and say, hey, this is definitely valuable. I need to see the rest of this. But obviously, at the end of the day, it's a business and can't give you everything. So the recording for this will be sent out to you in an email within 24 hours. You'll see a link to the Guru Focus YouTube page. All of these webinars are recorded and archived there on YouTube for you to see. You'll also often see them the previous weeks on the Guru Focus homepage. For instance, right here, last week we covered stock valuation and how to value stocks. That video is up here in the top right corner, and you'll likely see the video from tonight's webinar replace that within a day or two. So if there's no more questions, we'll go ahead and conclude the webinar. I do appreciate all of you attending, and I hope you got something out of this. If you're not yet a premium member, what we want to do is show you the value of this site and let you make a completely educated decision on this is definitely worth it for me. I will definitely get this much, if not much greater value. And if you're already a member, we want to be sure you're using the tools you're paying for. There's so much this site can do for you. It is literally a one-stop site for fundamental value and equity analysis, and we want you to be sure that you're aware of all the tools you have available to you. So thank you again, everyone, for coming. We always appreciate you both as an attendee and as a member of GuruFocus.com. If there's any requests you have for features for the website or anything you'd like added or don't understand how to do, please always feel free to email us directly, support@GuruFocus.com, and we will get back to you and answer your questions. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great evening, and we will see you next week.